Re-elected mayor of eThekwini there, Mxolisi Kaunda, giving his speech, and I suppose he was listing a lot of challenges that his administration will face and what they aim to do about those challenges that they face. Let's get some, comment and analysis on this particular speech and a lot of other things that have been going on during the day as well, and look forward as well. I've got political analyst Sandile Swana, who is joining me now. Sandile, very good evening. Thank you so much for being patient with us while we just listened to that speech. So the newly elected mayor listed a whole bunch of challenges, but I was just also listening to the reaction to some of his comments when he acknowledged the former mayor Sandile Swana, the reaction there from everybody within the ICC, and also he's now saying it's now safe to do business in eThekwini. Give us a comment on what you heard.
Thank you, Tony. I think that, as you correctly point out, probably these speeches this type of speech, we've had this type of speech since 1994. And this is a returning mayor. And as you correctly point out once again, Sandile Swana did not leave that municipality under a cloud of glory, but under an escort, perhaps, if you'd like, of the Hawks, for corruption that has been there. Corruption that has been raised very strongly by Nelson Mandela during his own presidency, by Thabo Mbeki, by Zuma himself, and by Cyril Ramaphosa. So this is not the time really for the ANC municipalities, especially when they return to office, to be talking. They rather make shorter speeches and actually demonstrate through concrete action and results what they are able to do, because we have not seen positive results up until now.
You're saying it's a speech we've heard many times. Do you think maybe because of what happened on on November 1, this time around, there might be a little bit more will to change?
Actually, there might be a lot more will to change, but you must remember that they are now in a very difficult position. There's something that sometimes we forget as to how the ANC got into this tight corner. For example, now the ANC is unable to pay salaries at Luthuli House for two reasons. One, the whole Zondo Commission and other related activities have disrupted the companies that have been milking the tender system to provide funds to Luthuli House. That's one. Two, the disclosure of donations to political parties has meant that people are more cautious so as not to be properly identified as the ones who are pumping money into the ANC. But these municipalities, such as the Durban Metro, to the extent that it has now remained in the hands of the ANC, it becomes one of the limited number of sources of income. The sources of income have dwindled with the loss of many metros. So they have to do their best to get what they can to fund the African National Congress out of the coffers of the metro. So that is one problem that we must not forget. And there's a 2024 election coming up, which needs to be funded through the state tenders by the ANC. So those are the issues that even if you have a desire to do the right thing, the organization is in financial dire straits, and the sources of income is the tender system of the state.
Sandile, I mean, your words are really, it's slightly depressing to put it mildly. But at the same time, let's take a larger view and look at the smaller parties that have really come into play here. We've got the EFF, suddenly supporting the DA. We know why they did it, specifically in Gauteng and so forth. If you were a voter, the public that went to vote for some of these parties, and you're sitting there thinking, but hang on a second, I was listening to, the leader of this party saying, I'll never support this one, I'll never support that one. There seems to be, I would feel incredibly disappointed as just a general voter at what I'm seeing at the moment.
Well, I think where we need to be now is to look at the final outcome, maybe. The final outcome is that certainly in Gauteng, a decision was made and that decision was implemented. The decision, even if it appears to have been made at the last minute, was to kick out the African National Congress out of the 3 metros in Gauteng. When we look at the precipitous decline of the results, I mean, I was looking at the numbers just now, from 62%, let's say around 2011, to about 36% overall. And all these metros in Gauteng are now 30-something percent. That's what they can sum up. So clearly, by any imagination, the African National Congress has been told by voters that we don't need you in power. Number 2, then, the elected representatives, which is the political parties themselves, have to, among themselves, then decide who is going to govern and how they are going to govern. And they have made publicly the decision that they are voting the ANC out of power, and then they are going to set up a process of how they are going to govern among themselves. Yes, there was a challenge, and that challenge is also valid going forward, even up to 2024, when Malema put his, I think it was a 10-point challenge to the ANC of issues that would have resonated with those who have been in the struggle for the liberation of South Africa, and the ANC rejected that in total, showing that the ANC, in a way, from Malema's point of view, is no longer committed to the original cause of struggle. So when you then turn around and hit the ANC and you kick them out of power, then it shows that in any event, they are no longer committed to the struggle.
Sandile, a last one here. I mean, just looking ahead, you know, what happens? Let's say, I mean, a lot of analysts are saying maybe these coalitions won't work, be it whether in Swana and so forth. But what if they actually do? And the electorate is watching, services are restored and so forth. It then becomes a lot more difficult for the ANC to win any of those municipalities back at all. And also looking at, this may be in 5 years' time, but also in 2024, there's still enough time, you know, to make an impressions for these coalitions. You know, what do they do as backbenchers, the ANC?
Yeah, in Gauteng specifically, they have been in the opposition, I think, well, in both Joburg and Tshwane, and they didn't actually do a good job of it. And there has been a tendency to ignore the technical work, to say we need to go to ward level activities and make sure that the IDP, the ward-based IDP process is going on correctly, and the people can see who are with them and safeguarding their interests right up until the IDP is implemented, the budget is correctly implemented, and so on. What they've tended to spend their time on is wrestling for power. For instance, the spurious putting of Tshwane under administration and just disrupting the government. But I agree with you. These coalitions know for sure that they have a unique opportunity to prove to the electorate that they can deliver the service and restore services. Because right now the job is straightforward, is to restore the services that have been destroyed. And I think that they have a good chance. And there's a lot of learning that needs to be done about co-governance. And let's hope that they do a good job of it.
Okay, thank you so much for just hanging on there, and interesting comments coming from yourself. Thank you so much for being with us on eNCA, political analyst Sandile Swana, talking to